Alright, what is up everybody? So I had a few ideas for videos. I kind of just figured I was going to just smash everything together into one because frankly, Shadow of the Erdtree is coming out in a few hours and I'm going to be playing that. So I've done my best to farm as much of the new stuff as I could to test it out. Just kind of wanted to give my overall thoughts. And you know what? I really wanted to say thank you to anybody who's watched my channel consistently or even just once over the years. I try to not make clickbaity content. I don't have clickbait titles or whatever. I just kind of like make videos about things I enjoy. I know that the YouTube algorithm is not very kind to channels that are not clickbaity. So I appreciate anybody who finds their way here. So a few things I want to talk about. One, Ember. Two, Jade. Three, what I've enjoyed most and found most effective in the new patch. So Ember. So what changed about Ember? So Fireball's a little better. Got a lot of quality of life changes. Way less energy consumption. Armor strip is cheaper at higher immolation, which is really nice. So there's finally a reason where you want to be sitting at maximum immolation rather than toggling it on and off. Um, and then her new augment, which I can just pull up here. Her new augment is really, 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 really good. Healing flame. So I actually think so. The build that I was running on Ember anyways was Gloom. And I actually think there's a ton of synergy between Gloom and Healing Flame. And the reason is the overhealing from Healing Flame gives you Overguard. And Overguard has a gate like shield gating. So how this build ends up working is you get a really big Gloom from abusing Ember's passive. So you don't have a ton of strength. I actually don't have any strength mods on here. This is just from Archon shards. So you get a ton of strength from your passive and maybe something like Power Surge, the one Parazon mod. Snapshot as much strength onto Gloom as possible. So you're basically always going to be max HP because of Inferno and you're just spreading dots constantly. So then whenever you use your 3, you're almost guaranteed to get Overguard because you're going to be capped off or topped off healing wise from Gloom. So I've actually really liked the synergy between Gloom and Healing Flame. And I think defensively, so actually I probably could drop Adaptation here to be completely honest, because now you have shield gating, which they changed a little while ago where Embers 4 actually works with Brief Respite and the Augur mods now. So you have shield gating, you have overguard gating, and you just have 90% damage reduction. So honestly, I would actually replace this with more range. And so just a lot of quality of life improvements. I think defensively, Ember is really solid. I was messing around with different arcanes here. Like honestly, you probably just want Molt Augmented, to be completely honest. Now, did this make Ember better? That is the one question. Because frankly, Ember's always been pretty tanky, especially if you run Gloom, right? Like if you take Healing Flame off of this build, it's going to be able to go pretty darn far in Steel Path without many issues, right? Like defensively, I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to go to level cap, but who has time for that anyways? Defensively, Ember has always been pretty good since her first rework, where they got rid of World on Fire and stuff. And I really like the changes that they made. The problem is it didn't address her biggest issue, which is her 4 just doesn't do enough damage. That's just it. Like even abusing your passive and just spamming your 4, frankly the damage is just underwhelming. And because heat doesn't, it doesn't go through shields, it doesn't go through armor. It does help strip armor, and you do have armor strip, but the problem is they increased health in this patch. they decreased armor and increased health, but Ember's always been able to strip armor, so that doesn't matter. Now they also increase shields, so Corpus are actually a really big problem for Ember. I was trying her in the new game mode, and I was like actually struggling to kill things, and I was kind of shocked, to be honest. Now you could counteract that by putting like Jade's ability or Pillage instead of Gloom. I mean, do you really want to do that when a huge portion of your power is the fact that you can armor strip? You know, so yeah, I think because things have more health and she was already good against armor anyways, her damage is lower and it was already not that great. Um, like yeah, you can kill stuff, but like it's just she really cannot hold a candle to some of the other frames I've been messing around with. Um, so is she bad? Absolutely not. Ember is a really solid Warframe. I think she doesn't take much. Like you could replace this with just like normal vitality. This augment is pretty easy to get. You don't really need brief respite on her anymore. You could use exothermic and not run energize. I think she's like a very good, very beginner friendly frame because she has like AOE, she has armor strip, she has damage reduction. Um, so I think she's a really solid frame, but she's still kind of in that like B tier. She's not like incredible at anything. Um, and I just wish they had done something with her 4 to make it a little more impactful. Um, that being said, she can totally do all the content in the game outside of like really high level endurance runs. I just thought it was interesting that while her changes did add a lot of quality of life, they kind of just doubled down on what she was already good at and didn't improve the one thing she was not good at, which based off of what Pablo said when she got reworked, what they wanted her to be good at was like an ESO nuke type frame, which frankly she just isn't. Honestly, like I almost would consider putting Gloom on her 4 and just keeping Fireball and using the Fireball augment for more heat damage and snapshotting a high strength buff on that augment and just using her as like a weapons platform. Because most of the time you're not really killing stuff with her 4. It's kind of just like pseudo CC. It does like keep you topped off with Gloom. But you're really mostly killing stuff with your weapons. So, I think Ember's solid frame. I appreciate the changes, but I think that they could have been, a little different. Jade. So I'm not going to spoil the quest, so I'm not going to talk about the quest at all. I'm actually going to not even show her 4 form. I hope she doesn't show it in her stance or whatever. So, is Jade good? Of course, you've seen like every other YouTube video is like, oh my god, Jade is the most overpowered. She's not overpowered. I'm just gonna be honest. She's solid. She's really solid. She has some issues. Her flying mechanics are bad compared to Titania. Um, she has a lot of weird cast delays. Like when you use your alt fire in Glory on High, there's like a really long delay before you can do anything else. When you use your Light's Judgment, there's like a weird delay where you can't start firing your Glory for a while. It's just like there's just like a lot of like a little jank. Now, is she bad? No way. She's very good. I think she's very, very good. She has really nice buffs. Her, ultimate form is cool. I think it's really cool. The alternate explosions only really work when enemies are grouped up, which, I mean, it does happen. Ironically, I actually find her really bad for the new game mode. Outside of the fact that you can fly, enemies tend to be like very spread out on like multiple levels, spread out like on those, like on each level there's like the like sidewalks or whatever you want to call it, the balconies. Enemies are kind of spread along those. It's really hard. She doesn't really have good opportunities except at the very end of the mission when things are all kind of clustered around the cart at when it's approaching um the end. And then you can kind of throw Light's Judgment down and get some good nukes. But like, so you basically like keep this on your strength buff. You go into your 4. You throw down your 1, and then if it's like multiple targets, you can use the alt fire. If it's one target, you can just spam her attacks. I built her glory for like heat, but it just feels kind of eh. I mean, I can't use arcanes like most, like typical exalted weapons. So the damage is like pretty underwhelming. I felt like I tried like a heat build, so I'm not showing it because I don't want to show the frame because she opens up when you go into it. I tried like a heat build with the new Pistol Elementalist mod, and it was like okay, it was all right. She feels really cool when you have like a group of enemies all grouped up and you can like spam your alt fire a couple times. But like I'm running 50% cast speed from shards and her animations still felt pretty long. So, and there was this weird like lockout delay after. It's like so I play a lot of Dota, and in Dota there's like cast backswing for abilities where like you can't do anything until the backswing animation is over. And that's what it feels like. And it's heroes that have really long backswing animations are really kind of like feel really janky. And that's how this feels. And I don't like it. I hope that they change that to make her play. Because, I mean, that's not Warframe, right? Warframe is very smooth combat. So I hope they make her alt fire a little less janky to use. I personally, now maybe I'm being a heretic for saying this, I think Jade is Sevagoth 2.0. I think her best ability, which is Ophanim Eyes, is in Helminth. I have no idea why they put this ability in Helminth. I thought they were going to put Light's Judgment. Um, but I think that people are going to use this Subsume a lot because it does a lot. It does damage, it strips armor and shields, and it slows. That's awesome. Every frame wants all those things. So I think if you're tired of using Gloom, or if you weren't really actually utilizing the lifesteal aspect of Gloom, like Banshee would love this ability. Like Banshee shield gates anyways. Banshee doesn't use anything from Gloom besides abusing the slows interaction with silence, where they get basically stunned for a long time. Um, but like this is infinitely better. Well, I mean, it's not an AOE around you. It is just where you're looking. So there are some downsides, but it's a viable contender to like Gloom for that type of ability, or like Pillage. So yeah, I think a lot of people are going to use her 3 on other frames. I don't personally think Jade is going to be a very high play rate frame at all. Frankly, if I'm going to play a flying frame, I'd rather just play Titania. I think Titania's weapons are infinitely stronger than Jade's. The one thing Jade can do that's kind of nifty is she has a power aura, which is honestly nicer for your teammates than for yourself. And she has this like AoE nuke potential with Light's Judgment and her alt fire when she's in her exalted form. So she's like pretty good. I think she's very interesting. Excuse me. I think the team, they definitely flex their creative muscles a little bit. I appreciate her design, both aesthetically and I like the quest, and I think she's very cool, but so is Sevagoth, and Sevagoth is one of the least played frames in the game, but he has one of the most popular subsumes. So we'll see. That's my prediction for Jade. I don't think she's like broken OP like a lot of videos are claiming. I don't think that that's true. Now, a couple frames. So to finish this up, a couple things that I've really liked from the patch. So two frames in particular that I've been trying that I think are super, super, super fun and really nice in the new game mode. So like what's the difference, right? So one, basically every status effect is good now. So that's one thing. Actually, I think literally every status effect is good. I was very surprised how good magnetic fields because overguard is really annoying, and especially for status weapons, overguard is brutal to get through because enemies don't take status damage until you get through their overguard. If you have magnetic on your weapon, especially if you can get it for free, like from a Kuva weapon or a Tenet weapon, or there's a couple weapons with innate magnetic out there. That feels amazing. It's so nice to be able to just blast through Overguard and keep doing damage. So that's really nice. Speaking of Blast is also extremely strong, so that's cool. Um, so that opens up a lot of possibilities as far as modding goes. I think the defense changes had a pretty big impact on some frames. So like in essence, armor is less important. Base health got scaled up. Shields got scaled up. So I mentioned that that's part of the reason why Ember feels a little underwhelming. One frame that hated armor but likes high HP enemies is Equinox. So I have been playing a ton of Equinox, especially for the new mode. Um, so I can just kind of show the couple builds I've been rolling with. So for Grenier, I still use Terrify. These are the exact same build. The only thing that's different is the Subsume. So for Grenier, I use Terrify. For Pillage or for Corpus, I use Pillage. For Infested, I usually just use Terrify because Pillage doesn't really work. I've tried a bunch of other stuff, but those are my two favorite. Um, not You don't really need that much strength, so this is actually a teeny bit under the amount of strength you need to full strip with Terrify when Molt Augmented is fully stacked, which happens very fast on Equinox. So honestly, you could probably take out Equilibrium. I really like Rolling Guard because of the new Jade. The Jade Xmas are brutal with how much damage they do. I'm running Vazarin right now for a reason. Um, so yeah, I probably would replace put Prime Sure-footed here, whatever. Basic shield gating build, really high range. Enough strength to have your armor strip abilities be useful. You survive through shield gating and rolling guard. It's the same thing you've seen count time and time again, right? The nice thing about Equinox is that her MAME actually feels like a real nuke again. Because of what I just said, because health went up, armor scaling is capped. Not just went down, it's capped. And that is insanely important for Equinox. Because especially in Steel Path, the she just had a losing proposition before because enemy armor mitigation outscaled health scaling at like an exponential rate. So she very quickly got to a point in Steel Path where you needed to kill like 1,000 enemies before you could pop your MAME and actually kill things, unless you armor stripped all of them. And Terrify has a cap on how many enemies it affects. So like it felt really, really bad before. Now it's it's more of a linear relationship. I don't know if it's exactly linear. There's probably some math there, but gotta get some more. Remember to have as much capacity left over as possible, so you start with more energy. Um, so like it's definitely a lot better. It feels way better to press MAME now. You're not like you don't go into Grenier missions depressed. Like I wouldn't even play Equinox in Grenier missions at all before. Just flat out would not play her in Grenier missions because it just felt Like you couldn't do anything. It felt MAME was completely useless. Now that does not feel like it's the case, especially against Corpus. Like in the new game mode, it is very, very, very easy to just like just wipe the entire elevator of enemies over and over and over again. Especially at the end when there's just like hordes of Eximus units. Oh my god, it feels incredible. You're just like you cast MAME and you pop it like as soon as you're finished casting it because like it's already more than enough to kill things. So Equinox feels really awesome. One thing I would say, I would highly suggest casting speed. Honestly, I will probably turn these into Tau Forge someday, so I have even more. It's really, really nice. I just have these strength shards to hit the cap for Terrify Armor Strip. But anyways, so yeah, Equinox has been really fun. Another frame I've had a lot of fun in the new mission. So okay, obviously Saren is pretty strong in the new mission, but another frame is Mirage. So Mirage, one of my favorite warframes, explosive ledger domain, very, very, very fun on the elevator ride. So if you don't know, explosive ledger domain has a monstrous radius, humongous, 40 meters unmodded for how it applies the mines. That's a huge area. As far as the mine explosion, that can get up to, with 235% range, I'm at almost 50 meters. That's pretty big. So, it's very, very, feels really nice to use Mirage on the elevator. And she also, you can switch. You can keep this on damage reduction when you're just on the elevator, so you don't get one shot by the Jade Light. She's actually pretty tanky now, which is weird. That's not something you would have ever said about Mirage before, but between her Hall of Mirrors, kind of confusing enemies, and then she can choose whether she has the damage increase or the damage reduction. Like if you're on the elevator, you don't want to get randomly killed by the Jade things, so you put on the damage reduction, you get up to the top, you're fighting the sister, you put on the damage increase because you're not going to be getting hit. Like, great. It just works really nicely. So this is the build I was using. So I kind of go back and forth between two different builds. So this one uses Nourish and Energy Nexus, and you can kind of afford to run it pretty low. You can afford to run at pretty low efficiency because, frankly, Mirage's abilities are pretty cheap. Like her most expensive one is 50, and her two of them are 25. Um, so and you're getting a lot of energy back from Energy Nexus, and any orbs you get, you're getting a ton of energy. So I'm not even running Energize on this build. I'm running Efficiency and Augmented for more strength and duration. So, and this build kind of does everything. You have damage buffs from Nourish, you have a damage buff from Eclipse, or damage reduction from Eclipse, you have AoE damage from Sleight of Hand, you have Hall of Mirrors, which is like kind of a pseudo defensive ability and an offensive ability. Just works really well. The other one, where the heck is it? Yeah, so the other option you can run, now this one's a little weird, is Prism actually does a ton of damage. So this build, I went a little more on the defensive side of things. You can totally drop, Adaptation and Arcane Aegis for Mold Augmented. Now you really don't want to go negative efficiency with this build though. That's one of the downsides because you have a channeled ability. But Prism can also truck enemies. It can do a lot of damage. And then you combine that with Sleight of Hand and you have a ton of AoE damage. So don't sleep on Mirage. She's a really strong frame. She feels really good in the new game mode. Now, as far as weapons go, so there's a whole slew of new mods. So there's uh, you can basically turn semi-fire weapons into like auto fire weapons, which is really really broken in some cases. I feel like. Um, you can all the status effects are really good. There's like these new elementalist mods, which are kind of like Bane-ish mods. they increase status damage. They're kind of nifty. Um, so the weapon I've been playing with the most and having like so much fun with this weapon is the Tenet Galaxian. Now, I think that there's two reasons that this weapon feels, well, three. So one, it like chains, right? So you're getting like AoE status application. Two, it's a Tenet weapon, so you can get baseline magnetic for free, which is really good now. If you can get free magnetic on a weapon and not have to dedicate any mods to it, it's so nice. It feels so good. And then you can also get corrosive and blast. I think that is a crazy combo. The fact that, because before when you had corrosive, you would just go with heat, but now you can go corrosive blast, and that blast is actually really freaking strong. So, since you're getting so much of your damage from status effects, you can go with Rifle Elementalist, which adds a little punch through and more status damage. Um, so, I went like crit. Now, the other cool thing about this weapon is that it has baseline cold. So, the base damage of this weapon is all cold, right? So, magnetic is because it's a Tenet weapon, but it's usually all cold damage. So, you can have corrosive up here and then just use a heat mod, and you will get corrosive, magnetic, and blast on one weapon. And it just feels awesome. It feels super nice to use. Everything just explodes. It feels really strong. So I've really enjoyed that. In general, I think weapons that have any kind, because like every status effect is strong now, I think that any weapon that has some kind of baseline status effect is really nice. Like whether it's a combined status, like I think on the Scourge you get like baseline corrosive, or on the Sporothrix you get like guaranteed, or you get viral from the explosions without modding for it. So it's like any weapon, or some weapons have like baseline electric, like the Fulmin has electric damage. So you could mod it for blast and then just use a toxin mod, and you would get blast and corrosive that way. I'm not saying that's good on that weapon, but that's something you could do. Um, so I think any weapon with like some type of elemental damage on it are really strong right now. I think other weapons that got nice buffs are anything that's like doesn't want to run status effects but wants to do a ton of status damage. And so that sounds really weird. Let me explain. So let me use like the Catch Moon as an example. Oopsies, the Catch Moon as an example. So so you can have the Catch Moon be, so the Catch Moon has guaranteed impact procs. So it will do a massive amount of slash damage because it has a ton of base damage. You get a slash proc, and before, like you don't like, it has low status chance and low fire rate. So it's not like you're going to be applying a lot of status effects with this weapon. You're just getting like one huge slash proc, and that's kind of it. You rely on your companion for getting viral. So you didn't like, you kind of ran out of mods to put on this weapon. So Pistol Elementalist is so good with this weapon because all your damage is coming from status effects. It also gives you reload speed. That's a lot of reload speed. Like primed quick draw, a primed 12 capacity, or 12 drain mod is 88% reload speed. Primed Elementalist is 60% reload speed and gives you 90% status damage. That's crazy. This mod is nuts. I think this one is like might be the best out of all of these Elementalist mods. I think the melee one is really good on heavy attack builds. You kind of replace, like if you're running like a corrupt charge heavy attack build, the melee Elementalist kind of replaces Killing Blow. Um, the rifle one is pretty good because you get punched through. I think the shotgun one is by far the weakest because all you get is magazine capacity. It's really weak. So I think that the shotguns unfortunately kind of got shafted. But This weapon is sick. So this is like, full on slash. So let me just go over here quick. I have spent way. So okay, you got to kill something to get your galvanized mods going. Okay, of course my pet does not want to actually attack anything. Okay, so there we go. So now you got the slash procs rolling, right? So yeah, just boom, huge freaking slash procs. Okay, gonna need 2 on that guy. But this is there's no viral. So like this would be like multiple times stronger if my pet was, actually doing his job. But really huge slash procs. So this weapon is pretty fun. Basically, you just shoot something once and you can kind of okay, or it'll just. All right, no, okay, whatever. No slash procs, I guess. Everything's just dead. But weapons like that really rely on slash or status effects. Like another one is the Akjagara Prime, and this weapon benefited massively from this patch because one, the Pistol Elementalist mod is really nice on this weapon. Two, you can turn it into an auto weapon through the new settings in the accessibility. So I guess I can show that really quick. So in the options, if you go to accessibility, you just turn on fire manual trigger weapons continuously. There you go. So that's super nice. Um, so I've always really wanted to make this weapon work because it has a ton of slash damage. It's like all slash damage. So I was like, nah, I do have a very good Riven, so take that with a grain of salt. However, it's similar case to that the Catch Moon build where like, you know, so if I wasn't running this, I would just run Hornet Strike, right? So it's pretty strong. It's like whatever. I can actually. Oh shoot, I can't. I don't know if I can. Let me try. Okay, let me try. I wanna try this without the Riven. Because I would run Hornet Strike and then crit. I would run this and why on God's green earth am I running this and not this? That's just insane. Anyways, I think that's purely because of mod capacities. Anyways, okay, whatever. So I'll just show this. But this weapon is like basically all slash. And if you can get viral from other places, and now that companions are so strong, that's another huge thing here. Is like companions are so good at spreading status effects, whether it's your hound or like a sentinel. Okay, so I'm like kind of stacked up on my galvanized mods. So like, slash procs are pretty good with this, and I'm intentionally not getting headshots because the headshot modifier for slash is like pretty insane. They'll just kind of instantly die if I do that. Trying to be a little more realistic, but like so it's like kind of fun. Like I'm not saying they're like the most amazing weapons ever, but it is fun to be able to mess around with weapons like that. And then I guess the last thing is just like the melee version of melee elementalist, also extremely strong. For like I don't think this is very good for Tenno Kai because Tenno Kai builds are very constrained already. Because if you're running Tenno Kai, odds are you're running melee influence. So you just like kind of you run out of mod space super fast on Tenno Kai builds. And also the Tenno Kai heavy attacks are faster than normal heavy attacks. So you don't really care. You don't get much benefit out of the heavy attack wind up speed. Now for corrupt charge builds where you're not building up combo, you're just using the weapon. I think that melee elementalist is really nice. The other thing that it's super nice on is like, oh my gosh, what is it called? This weapon is just absolutely hilarious. So glaives, because glaives have a little more freedom because you don't need reach, right? You don't need a reach on a glaive. So glaives have like a little more flexibility. And Zorus in particular has guaranteed electric procs. So on the heavy attacks. So that also means you can use Melee Elementalist with a Corrupt Charge build and Melee Influence. And this is just absolutely hilarious. I was actually messing around with running Blast on this. Um, and it was like absolutely, it was just so funny. So yeah, just everything gets like a ton of electric procs. Of course, yeah, there we go. So very, very funny weapon. So I think I gotta give D a lot of credit. Over the past like year or so, maybe even a little longer, I think maybe yeah, longer than that, like a couple years, we've gotten galvanized mods, so many more arcanes, status reworks, damage type reworks. Like I gotta give them a lot of credit. I think we are at a point where you can just take a weapon and kind of like mod it how you want to play, and it's probably going to feel pretty good. Now, obviously, there's always going to be a meta. There's always going to be outliers. Like, let's be real, viral is still broken strong. Like 325% additional health damage is insane. So there's always going to be things that are better or worse. However, I think that modding is in a really, really, really fantastic spot. Because when I first started, every weapon used the same mods. If it was a primary, every good primary used the same exact mods. And if you didn't want to put those mods on that weapon, it didn't mean you found some new build. You just didn't use that weapon because it meant it was trash. So like so I think that there's way more options now, which is really cool. So also use Vazarin until they fix the Jade Lake, because that shit is really busted. All right. Well, so I just kind of wanted to vomit everything out on one video because, like I said, tried to. I've the past since the patch came out, I've basically been playing almost nonstop. I took like a half day of work, and then I've just been playing a ton. Was up till like almost 4 in the morning testing stuff. So I'm pretty confident. I like the new game mode. I wish it was a little shorter, but the farm for Jade is really not that bad. Oh, I guess there's Jade's weapons. I don't like any of them, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think they're all pretty bad. Um, Actually, really bad. Um, yeah, so that's a little unfortunate. I don't think there's really reason to use her weapons, but hey, mastery points. So yeah, so I hope everybody enjoys the new update, and I'll see you in the shadow of the Erd Tree. So, see everybody. Thanks for watching.